The following is an interview that Jeff, Colin, and I had with Chicago Transit Authority unionists Erek Basir and Rob Thomas to discuss the rank and file unionism that they are engaging in that is vital for the development of real working class power in this region. While Erek and Rob are members of capitalist workers' unions, often called business unions, much of the authentic bottom-up worker unionism they are engaging in is catalyzed by relationships and activities found within the Chicago Transit Justice Coalition that gives a dynamism to efforts to change the hierarchical nature of existing CTA unions. At times we talked about these unions in the singular, as if there's just one union. That is because of our natural inclination to tear down barriers among workers. One of these barriers comes from how workers are divided and separated away from each other in different unions that inhibits our ability to collaborate, to plot together, and to practice mutual defense. Still today, many workers are divided by crafts, and the unions facilitate this division among workers. This idea of uniting workers together across craft and location can be found in what's called industrial unionism or syndicalism. So when we talk about one union, we may actually be referring to any or all of the unions involved at CTA whom Erek and Rob make contact with or participate in. And though neither Erek nor Rob refer to the Chicago Transit Justice Coalition as a workers' union, in the interview, we of Prefigure Autonomy refer to any activity among rank and file workers as union activity because, from a syndicalist perspective, a workers' union in its most essential form is when two or more workers help each other out in resistance to oppressors and oppressive systems. We do not need government or company recognition to recognize the humanity of our class siblings and ourselves. We do not need government or company recognition to engage in sacred associations of mutual support in our communities as found in worker unions or whatever autonomous associations we, the oppressed, create. While there is not a complete alignment of everyone's perspectives and positions in this interview, there is enough anger, solidarity, commitment, and commonality between us to see the real possibilities of such rank-and-file efforts revolutionizing transportation in Chicagoland and the region by the development of working-class power. When we of Prefigure Autonomy speak of real working-class power in this region, we are very clear that working-class power is distinct from the power of leaderships, political parties, and politicians, even socialist ones. Oftentimes, working-class power is completely contradictory to these and destroyed by them. While the power of politicians, leaderships, and political parties may grow from votes, positive social media exposure, and control of government, real working-class power grows from the oppressed harmonizing their autonomies through the self-management of our labor, of our workplaces, the economy, and society as a whole, without having to answer to any dominator. But we are not here to merely report, but to agitate for the development of full worker takeover of Chicago Transit Authority by its workers in coordination with its passengers and other non-oppressors affected by the CTA transit system. If you are committed to the ideal of the democratization of the CTA, of strengthening rank-and-file-led unionism in the CTA unions that transcends craft divisions, please consider sharing this video to CTA passengers and to people who would work at CTA to revolutionize it with worker unionists such as Erek and Rob. We have included a current link for applying at CTA in the description. Please consider mobilizing your groups to meaningfully connect with rank-and-file union efforts at CTA, especially for the purpose of supporting vulnerable CTA workers who live in your neighborhood so that they can better survive on the job so we can all get closer to the big win. If this interview is of value to you, please consider liking, subscribing, and hitting the bell. Don't forget to check out our other content related to the development of working class power in the region, such as an interview we did with Mike Stroh called Start Where You Are, which we will include in the description. Thank you.
I'm a member of IWW, and I actually just got hooked up with the union about going on a year ago now. I think it's either a year or a little over a year. And I had asked about what were some things that I think I talked to the rep and said, what were some things, I could get involved in? And he referred me over to IWalk, Chicago IWalk, which is, advocating for incarcerated workers. And I got hooked up with Chris over here, and that was pretty much it. He was gracious enough to let me join in on some of the activities that he was doing outside of IWW, but very aligned with the things that we do in IWW. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And then, we kind of started chatting about areas of interest of ours, things that we thought were going to support our values, and things that we think communities need in order to gain autonomy from repressive structures, I should say.
Yeah, so Robert, would you like to go next? We're giving our names, union affiliation, and what brings you in today.
Hey, you guys see me?
Yeah.
Let me get this bike out the way. Sorry. All right, I'm Robert Thomas. I'm a bus operator with ATU Local 241. I've been with Justice Coalition for about the Chicago Transit Justice Coalition for about 3 years. Active, trying to get the members to stand up and fight back against the employer and our sellout union, and let them know that we run the union, not the six-figure knuckleheads that we pay that don't do a good job at all. I think that's about it. Any other questions?
Nah, that's enough to get us started. Erek, what you got?
So I'm just here to support my brother Robert Thomas, and I'm also in the Chicago Transit Justice Coalition. We're both members of ATU Local. He's a member of ATU Local 241, and I'm 308. We both work at the CTA, and we are always looking for opportunities to inspire our coworkers to step up and speak up, take control of the union, and take what we deserve at work. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Colin.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Colin, what brings you in today, Colin?
Hello. Yep. I'm just here to listen, learn some things. I'm with IWW. I'm kind of similar history to Jeff, working with Jeff and Chris on this news, whatever you want to say, this news outlet for a little while. And this is an exciting interview. I'm definitely hear more about the strikes you guys have planned. And yeah, I'll pass it on to the next person.
All right, so it's just me. I'm Chris. We've been figuring out how to do better about communicating in our circles, like really important things that are going on in Chicago and really Illinois. And so that's kind of what brings us together. And I'm hoping that with this interview, that I can do my part of organizing to support what y'all are trying to do, because that we know how important organizing in CTA is. And but any success that we have, it just can't be the workers at that, in the shops, in the trains or the buses. It's got to be community supporting. So that's part of why we're doing this today, is to figure out like what's going on and what we can do to do our part. It's hard to like have these conversations one-on-one all the time. So like creating a video where we could just like share it to others is I think going to be really helpful for us to do our part. So yeah, this is we'll move on. For this, for Robert or for Erek, is there any sort of offering y'all would like to make to open up our discussion? This can be like a quote or a story or description of something that means something to you. And the idea is this is something that we want the listener to like learn about and to think about, something for them to take into the world, to like for them to do good, to empower themselves and empower others.
Well, I guess I could say that any progress that we have is good progress. I guess you can say that.
Yeah, no, that's powerful. That's powerful. Yeah, because it can always be a whole lot worse. But a lot of people are doing a lot of work to, because it's so easy to destroy, but it's so hard to build.
Right. And that's
right.
what we're working hard. That's what we're working hard to do every day. It's to build. And our coworkers have been traumatized and brainwashed for so long that, you know, what we're saying to them is foreign a little bit, but sooner or later they'll catch on.
Definitely, definitely. But to give the listener a bit of a grounding, like what are some of the unions that are present in the CTA? Is it just Amalgamated Transit Union?
About approximately 12 different unions in addition to Amalgamated Transit Union. So that's International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, the carpenters, the plumbers, pipe fitters, iron workers, and painters, and many, many others. Ironically, when you look at the collective bargaining agreements for all of the different unions at the CTA, the only ones with a no strike, no lockout clause are the so-called crafts. Those are not the ATU. You know, the so-called skilled workers. You know, they like to say this is a skilled worker and that's an unskilled worker. You know, you're just a train operator or a bus driver. You know, you just do this. You're not skilled, right? But anyways, that's another issue, another topic. But the ATU does not. There is nothing in the collective bargaining agreement about no strike, no lockout. However, if you talk to any, almost any official in ATU, and especially the members, the only section of the collective bargaining agreement that they can quote for you is the no strike, no lockout clause, but it doesn't exist. So when the 1979 strike happened and the 1968 strike happened, from the evidence I could find is that the crafts, the non-ATU locals did not strike. They held fast to their collective bargaining agreements, but it goes to show you that two things. One, that the largest, most significant force of workers is ATU at the CTA, and that even though they get paid more, the other union workers, they have to sell out more than we do. So I guess I said a little more than you asked.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
So there are about 20 unions at CTA, and we're the poster child. You only hear about 241 and 308. You never hear about any other unions at CTA in the media at all. And that's because they make a fool out of us and they make us an example.
You mentioned the Chicago Transit Justice Coalition. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Like, how does it relate to your workplace, to your unions, and to CTA?
Okay, I'm not muted. Robert, did you want to answer that? Or?
Oh no, I just forgot to take down my hand.
Oh, okay.
You're good.
I mean, you can if you want. Okay, so the Chicago Transit Justice Coalition exists as a prototype, as a model of what is possible for our union, the ATU. We're a democratic, there is no leader, okay, there's no boss. Whoever wants to do anything and bring up anything and motion for anything, it is open. We do have issues sometimes with, people who get involved and want to control and take away the message of militancy or the tone of militancy, even using the words militant and revolution. We've had issues with that. We have issues with members in the coalition who are not for striking. They're for getting along, finding ways to get along with the boss. We know there's no compromise, when it comes to the money that the company is doling out to the workers. You're not going to make a deal in a secret meeting. That's not how it works. You know, you have to take action. We hope to inspire, we try to inspire new leadership, people who will believe in the power of the collective, the workers who are around them. So that when we have a problem at our shop or our terminal or our garage, we don't have to go call someone. We can deal with it where we work. You know, freedom of information to the union, not locked up where you have to make an appointment. Hopefully the person that you're talking to isn't angry with you because you criticize them or make fun of them, you know. That's pretty much the bulk of what we do. And we have become a pariah to the business union leadership. Go ahead, sorry.
You got it, Robert.
I was going to say that Chicago Transit Justice Coalition is a great thing. It's all volunteers, and we actually care about the workers, and we educate the members. You know, the union that we have right now doesn't work for the members. You know, we got to make an appointment to see financial records. Everything is secret. The contract, they gave us 4 pages to look over the contract and vote on in 2 weeks when they knew it was 16 pages. They only gave us 4 pages to vote on. Left out all the bad stuff in the 16 pages that they knew we would have voted on, that we would have voted no on. You know, so this union likes to play games with the members and the employees, and it's a shame that they look like you and me and they stabbing us in the back. But they making 6 figures doing it, all of them. They're making 6 figures, and we struggling to provide for our families. And they claim they fighting for us every day to live a lavish lifestyle, when in reality, they're the only ones that live in the lavish lifestyle, not the workers. The union officials and the CTA upper management, Dorville Carter, $350K, 33% raise, and we got 9.25% raise. And they get bonuses every year. The managers, they had 94K. The bus managers at the garage, they make 94K a year. Why they need a bonus? They do less work than all of the workers, and they make 94K a year, and they want a bonus. All they, you know, they so quick to charge us, charge. You didn't follow the rules. You didn't follow the SOP. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. You know, screw that.
And just to give you all a little background about lavish lifestyle, Robert didn't just come up with that moniker. That was the president of the largest ATU, the largest local, President Keith Hill. He got on, he does what he calls Facebook Lives. He calls them lives. They're live streaming meetings with members who he thinks are not hostile towards him. And he got on a rant talking about how we need to be grateful we have a job and we have this lavish lifestyle and we're not satisfied enough, you know, and we just went after him. We made memes about it and everything. It was hilarious. And we had a photo of President Hill in his mugshot after he was charged with beating up his lady friend or something. And she dropped the charges. And so we put that mugshot with the words lavish lifestyle. And then for the president of the CTA, Dorville Carter, with his 33% raise, we made a little song, a little rap, a little spoken word called 33%. It's on YouTube. It's really funny. And we have fun with this stuff. Can I share the screen?
Yeah. Let's
So
see.
let me get you this photo. Makes me laugh. Share screen. Yeah, share. You know what? I'm gonna share this sound too, because I'll play that spoken word we did. So you see this? So there he is. That's his mugshot. Got angry. He gets angry with people. He calls cops on them. He threatens to kick their ass. I mean, we had another Justice Coalition member. He plays softball, and he was just saying, "I'm gonna kick your ass." And it's like he told one of our organizers who published our newsletter. He threatened to kick his ass. I mean, he's always about beating people up, calling cops on them. So we said, "Oh, he's got a lavish lifestyle." So let me give you the YouTube. Is that okay? You want that now or later?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna play it's real quick. And I'm gonna library here, and we have here it goes. It should play home comfy. So let me know if you don't hear it.
We can hear it.
33% for the company president. Hazard pay, money spent. Second chancers can't pay the rent. Work from home, comfy slippers, no mask needed, all alone. Zoom call with lawyers, staff, and union sellouts on his smartphone. Some part-time bus and rail workers have no home. Uniforms and family health insurance. Flagmen paying out of pocket. No salary bump for any of us, bet. No $350,000 rocket. 33%. A competitive raise for our company president. Underfunded pension, forgot to mention money you can never have enough. More and more keep the workers poor. Flyovers and cameras with 8K HD X-ray view. Negotiations for contracts behind secret closed doors. The workers always get the screw. The solution to the problems are nothing new. Full-time jobs for all and two-person crews. Running a transit agency during normal times is a Herculean task. Sitting in your award-winning palace while we get assaulted is kind of crass. No contract, no radios, no decent breaks for operators. Safety first, the truth hurts. Company union, lavish lifestyle. Think about the relationship for a while. Union bosses to help punish the voices that inspire the workers. Call the cops, run the radicals off the lot, shoot the messengers, suspend and fire the non-conforming misbehaviors. No accelerated discipline for our highly paid boss or his top union friends. No random drops or violation sins. An easy ride to retirement for him. We lost count. How many pensions? No 26 and out for the rest of them. Leadership that this agency needs. Glory and praise to thee, while the full-time workers double-digit pension paycheck deductions bleed. If they survive COVID-19, Twilight Zone cognitive dissonance, the company board mandated it. 33% for the company president. Celebrated by our employers, mayors, and governors, and presidents as essential, right? Wait a minute. Essential for what? Essential for who? Essential for a system of insatiable greed. Essential for a system that puts profits over people. We are human beings that give our life energy to serve our fellow human beings. We are human workers, not slaves for billionaires, not commodities and tax write-offs. We deserve dignity, hazard pay, clean and safe working conditions, and full-time jobs so we can build our communities.
What y'all think?
Man, it's a lot. Yeah, those some ugly insights. Shit.
That's what it's like for us, brother.
Yeah. We'll put a link to it too.
Yeah. I'll put it. You want me to put it in the chat?
It's okay. We'll be able to find it. We'll be able to find it easily.
Yeah, we got a whole bunch of good stuff. at our YouTube channel, and you can get that from our website. We have a link on every page on our website to our playlist. So it's called Creative Art. We got a bunch of stuff. You know, we just released this one, Union Boss. Inspired by IWW Praise Boss.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of stuff for you. Lots of entertainment.
And what's the life of a CTA worker like at work and off of work?
Go ahead, Erek. I'll let Erek do this one first.
Okay, but then you got to go right after me.
Okay.
Life for a CTA worker is like crossing over a 600-volt DC third rail. You got to get past it. But if you slip when you step, and if you're grounded, you're dead. Now you can follow the rules. They say follow the rules, follow the rules. Call on before you get on the right of way. Wear your reflective vest. Look both ways. Keep your head on a swivel. Lift up your knees when you step over that third rail. But why isn't the third rail covered? So the hazards, we CTA workers are surrounded by hazards that our employer refuses to eliminate. But they're quick to write rules and regulations and standard operating procedures that wash their hands of any need to be responsible for removing the hazards. And so that when we get hurt, we get the blame. And that's what you always hear. Like one of our brothers fell, he was allegedly crossing the tracks without authorization, and he fell on the third rail. He was grounded, he died. Maybe he died before he fell, you never know. You know, people have heart attacks, whatever. And then got run over after that. It was just horrible. And right away, the union leadership, y'all need to follow the rules. And then when people speak up like myself and they say, hey, quit lecturing us about following the rules, eliminate the damn hazard, cover that third rail so that the trespassers, employees that happen to be there that maybe you didn't hear call on the radio, don't trip on it. We don't drop tools on it. It makes it hard to get electrocuted. Just cover the damn thing. Eliminate the hazard. But no, they blame us. So yeah, life for us on the bus and on the rail is extremely dangerous. And not one politician gives a damn. Yet we keep worshiping them and giving them money and believing in them and lobbying for them while we ignore our own power. So I hope that answers your question. Go ahead, Robert.
Life as a CTA worker is hell right now. Safety is out of control. We had a coworker a couple months ago, Sylvester Adams, you know, broke the rules, but did what he had to do to protect himself. You know, he shot somebody at the station because he got jumped on. That's something that constantly happens at the train station. Our coworkers at the booth and outside the booth, bus operators on the bus and off the bus are getting attacked, are getting robbed, are getting jumped, are getting assaulted. We have no form of protection. We can't bring weapons to work. We can't bring a gun, can't bring a knife, can't bring anything. And then when we call the police, they don't come, or they come 45 minutes later. So they want to act like they're doing something about safety by hiring these unarmed security guards, teenagers walking around with no handcuffs, no weapons, no nothing but a flashlight. It's a joke. $71 million for the security company contract at the train stations. $38 million they just signed last week for K9 security with the K9 dogs. Still unarmed K9 agents. You know, this company is a joke when it comes to security. But hopefully they'll get it together before we have another death, before we have another assault, before somebody else gets robbed, stabbed, attacked. You know, I don't know how many lives have to be lost before the CTA management wake up. And that's all I got to say.
Colin, do you want to briefly mention some of the myths about what CTA, being a CTA worker is like? Because I grew up with some myths about what being a CTA worker was like.
Yeah. So a myth would be, CTA workers have a generous compensation package. It's a cozy and secure job. You got security. What are the realities like?
The reality of a worker at CTA is, I just put it like this: city workers without city benefits. You know, City of Chicago employees, they get all kind of benefits with housing, with days off, with vacation, with sick time. We have none of that at CTA. And it's really a shame. But, hopefully we will get leadership that will actually care about the workers, because right now it's pretty bad.
Yeah, the myths are incredible. So the CTA has, maybe well over 1,000 workers in different tiers. There are 4 tiers at the CTA of people doing the same job. You have full-time permanent, which me and Robert are. So we're like the fortunate ones. We do get to earn paid vacation only after a year of service, pension, and but no sick days. None of us get sick days. But the other tier is part-time temporary, full-time temporary, and then second chance, right? So we have all these people in full-time temporary, part-time temporary, and second chance. The majority are in part-time temporary. They have no premiums for working on Sundays, holidays, overtime, no paid vacation. They get 2 weeks unpaid vacation. Isn't that nice? And they get no dental. Imagine that. You're a customer service assistant on the front line. You deal with people every day. Don't you think you need some dental care, because we all got funny, messed up teeth. I got like these crooked ones here, and sometimes some of us don't have any teeth, So it's like, you need that, right? But no. So that's a huge myth. So when you're looking at a CTA worker on the front line, you even have train operators that are part-time and bus operators, like doing safety sensitive stuff, but they're part-time or full-time temporary. It's really, really bad. So when you see them out there, most likely half of the people you see are people living in poverty. They are living in poverty. We got part-timers who are part of the Justice Coalition. They got like their roofs are leaking, stoves don't work, can't afford their cell phone bill. It's really sad. And it's getting worse. They want more of this. In our collective bargaining agreement, we have the CTA slipped this thing in there about micro transit. And the leadership never said anything of the unions. So when they were asked about it, they said, "Oh yeah, it's just it's like smaller routes." It's like, no, you dummy. Micro transit is gonna have ride share and whatnot. We're gonna have more low-wage jobs. We're going to lose maintenance jobs. We're going to lose maintenance positions. We're going to lose pension contributions. And the pension is sweet. I'm telling you that you can't get a better pension than what we have with a 401k, even if they match it. Nobody matches like we get matched from the CTA. Although now they're burdening us with making us carry a bigger burden of it. So, you know, they're trying to break it. But anyways, I hope that helps what me and Robert said.
Yeah.
Jeff and Chris, check this out. So people see a motorman, they call him a train driver, not train operator. I want to tell you how what the majority of the train operators are living like. So they start out part-time as a CSA, customer service assistant, making minimum wage, like I said, crap benefits, right? So then they have to, if they want to be a train operator or full-time, they have to apply for a position called flagman, where you basically walk the right of way, the tracks, protecting workers, slowing down trains, stopping trains, making sure the area is safe so the train can go through and all the workers are clear. Because there's all kind of work done around and on the tracks. Subway, elevated, and grade level. That flagman position is full-time temporary. So you go from part-time temporary up to full-time temporary. Check this out. When you go from part-time temporary, if you're there for a year, you get a uniform allowance. So you go in your pocket possibly up to $1,000 to buy uniforms to be a customer service assistant as a part-time temporary. And then every year you get a uniform allowance. Now, you're saying I'm going to make more money now as a flagman, and I'm going to be on my way to train operator where I can be full-time permanent, right? So you go to flagman, and then they say, oh, we're going to take that uniform voucher away from you. Whoa. So your uniform voucher is gone, right? But then as a flagman, you have to qualify. Eventually, it might be a year, 2 or 3 years before you have to learn and qualify to be a train operator. They take away your family medical, right? Now we got that changed. In the Justice Coalition, we were real aggressive about that. You can't take away family medical. So in 2023, that's going to change, okay? That's going to change where you're going to be able to have family medical. Right now, there's all these flagmen that lose their family medical. But check this out. As a flagman, you make more money, 20 and over an hour. So what ends up happening is you get on Medicaid, right? But the Medicaid you begin to lose your Medicaid after you make too much. And then when you become a qualified train operator, you're still full-time temporary, mind you. You make way too much. So Medicaid drops you. Sometimes they drop the children because you're making too much. So we got these people making all this money. It's not a whole lot, maybe 23, 24 an hour as a full-time temporary train operator certified, but they lose their benefits. So they're paying out of pocket for their insurance for themselves and their family. And they took away their uniform allowance. So in order to qualify for train operator and operate trains, guess what? You have to wear a uniform. So then you got to pay out of pocket to get your damn uniform because the flagmen don't get uniform allowance. So it's like you're constantly going down. Eventually you become full-time permanent, then you can earn an allowance. So I just wanted to share that with you.
No, that's real. I mean, it might not mean something to some people, but for anybody who's like struggling in Chicago, you know, barely can make rent already, it's hell. That's like, you just set up for failure. And, you know, this is something that I'm learning more and more about some of these different trades where we grew up with this myth that like being a truck driver, like that you become a truck driver, like everything's made. And like the modern poverty of this stuff, it's horrifying. It's hard to like not want to cry hearing about what people are going through, even in this country. Yeah, I'll kick it back over to you, Jeff. Sorry about that. But no, thanks for mentioning that, Erek. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that's good. No, and another thing I was going to mention too, just for people who are, tuning in, or people who are going to view this video who are just starting to get involved in the labor movement, that what you two were illustrating is really something that broadly characterizes the way that workers are treated in multiple different sectors. I mean, I remember hearing, coming from Madison, Wisconsin, back when collective bargaining was getting squashed by Governor Walker back in the day. I mean, those were the same myths that were getting floated around about bus drivers in the city of Madison, or, workers in Wisconsin, unionized workers in Wisconsin, teachers. That's another big one. They get summers off. They're, those are really cush jobs, without bringing up safety concerns in public schools, other conditions. We can go into all the benefits. Obviously there's no teachers on with us today, but yeah, that's definitely something that I am appreciative of you guys bringing up, because that's, it characterizes the larger movement too, and some of the myths that get shoved down people's throats about public jobs and workers in general. But I did want to bring up our other question, and that kind of circles back to what you were illustrating earlier, Robert. Are there any crime statistics or breakdowns, or maybe any anecdotal things that we can talk about that helps viewers and folks who are going to be listening to this kind of envision the conditions that the CTA workers endure on a day-to-day basis? And that, Eric or Robert, feel free to jump in.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, every week there's something going on the trains, on the red line. We got a lot of people. Even though we're bus operators, train operators, we have to take on jobs of other people, psychologists, counselors, all kind of things, other jobs, because you can't just drive the train or drive the bus in peace. You got people pushing employees over the tracks. You got, people jumping on the bus driver, spitting on them, throwing things at them. It's just crazy, some of the stuff that we go through.
Yes, we are assaulted daily, every day, but you don't hear about it. The majority of the assaults are not reported, and they're definitely not reported through the full breadth of how they should be reported. So that is, and it's not the fault of the workers. I mean, especially when you're on the front line, or you're in the middle of doing your work, and then crap happens, and then it's like, oh God, it's just another delay. It slows you down. So you got to get past it. So, a train operator or a bus operator may report a disturbance, right? Like to the dispatcher, or what's called the controller. And the controller will give instructions as per management what to do, but nothing was put in writing, right? So also, especially on the front line, the operators and the servicers, the people who clean the trains, and especially the trains. We have servicers that clean the buses, but they're generally in the garage, not on the front line. They just got to get the job done and get the train out of there, And it's usually they got a schedule to keep, and part of the schedule is their breaks, and their breaks are always kind of messed over with delays. So being threatened with assault, rape, murder, spat at, something thrown at you, is daily. So a verbal assault, I'm going to rape you, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to beat your ass, whatever, right? This happens daily. So it's a verbal assault, but it's still an assault, because and it also has a effect on the psyche and the morale of the worker. So yeah, we're definitely physically assaulted often. I don't have numbers on that, but I have facts that we are assaulted daily, especially with threats. So at the Justice Coalition, one of the things we push, not necessarily push, but preach about is elimination of poverty. Because a lot of what happens, a lot of the crime that happens at the CTA is a symptom of an underlying problem. You know, like you can look at yourself saying, "Oh, I have a fever." Okay, but why do you have a fever? You know, that's the key. What kind of thing are you going through in your body, right? So the crime is a symptom. So we really preach and talk and try to organize around issues that eliminate crime or address the problems with long-term solutions. Policing and security is a solution. It's a solution. But what kind of solution is it? It's a short-term solution. And the short-term solution is like a Band-Aid, right? So if I have these sores on my hand, well, oh, let me just put a Band-Aid on it. And then what? And then I have another sore on my hand, I'm gonna put a Band-Aid. These sores are popping up all over my body. I'll just put Band-Aids on it. Let me put some antibiotic cream. Maybe I'll lick it. You know, you just come up with crazy stuff, but it doesn't fix the problem. Why are you getting sores? So what the police do in the security is they shift stuff around. So I have to admit, when I see them in there, I feel a little sigh of relief. But at the same time, I know that all they're gonna do is shift it around, and these same desperate people with nothing to lose are just gonna go elsewhere. And they'll get what? They'll get arrested, and then they'll go to jail, and they'll get a record. And there's no reformation, there's no type of program in the jails to address people's deficiencies, you know, whether it is their health, their mental health, their physical health, you know what I mean? Their economic health. So our safety is actually incumbent on the security of the people in the city. And when I talk about the security, I'm not talking about guns and knives and handcuffs and jails. I'm talking about economics. I'm talking about healthcare. I'm talking about housing. I'm talking about education. All right. And right now, as it stands, these things are not a priority. Over $48 billion of our tax dollars has been going towards a war in Ukraine. Whatever y'all think of Putin and the Ukrainians and who should be there, okay. Over $768 billion last year was allocated to the Department of Defense. And we are told at the CTA, we can't have full-time jobs for all. We can't have two-person crews. We can't afford it, can't afford it. But where's more security cameras? Now we have all this money, this tax revenue from the state of Illinois, especially the city of Chicago, going to fund military expansions, bases. For what? Our people are rotting in the streets. I mean, you have people self-medicating with alcohol, drugs. You know, I mean, so if the membership wants security and they want a CTA police force, and that's what they want to fight for, then that's what's going to happen. But frankly, it's not going to change a thing. It's just going to get worse. And the poverty that we have, when it comes to poverty elimination, it must begin at home. It must begin at the CTA. No more part-time jobs, no more 4 tiers, second chance, and full-time, temporary, and no, everyone's full-time. If you're part-time, it's only for a short time, maximum of 6 months. You know, after that, you're fired or you're full-time. That's it. Follow the rules for 6 months or whatever. Everyone goes full-time. Because what's happening, brothers and sisters, is that everybody who works here is kind of like stepping on each other, and they cannot invest in their own communities. They can't even buy their own house. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up some of these distinctions. Yeah, a lot of times when we think about crime, we're usually operating on some definition that's been created for us, so that we don't think about, you know, what crime should be interpreted as. So like, we all got to have our own like criminology, our own idea of what crime is. And the crimes that people don't talk about are like the crimes of what you just mentioned. Like, communities, if they had a chance to talk about this stuff, they would say like, yeah, that's a crime. You know, it's a crime that people don't have housing security, that essentially that people aren't empowered, right? Because that's what's going on, is that so many of our like our class siblings, they're not empowered. And so in desperate situations, you know, they're lashing out on us or trying to, you know, get access to resources that, you know, were cut off from them in the first place by, you know, by people who control us. And so I'm glad that y'all are making that education, because it's like, it's so easy, right, to think that the person, it's difficult to think beyond that when you have people making these threats to you and attacking you. Like, it's really wild that y'all are able to like to do that, have that awareness. Go ahead, Robert.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Erek said. CTA is a billionaire. They got $2 billion since COVID started. There shouldn't be no part-time jobs at this company. It should be all full-time jobs. There shouldn't be one co-worker living in poverty working at CTA. It's just incredible.
Yeah, and
That's safety. That's safety right there.
yeah, and maybe we'll talk about it at some point, but the idea of full-time needs to change as well. Because like, as soon as like the 8-hour workday became a thing, the unions, even the conservative ones, they started trying to go for the 6-hour workday. Not to cut benefits or to cut people's pay. It was, you know, going to be without cutting any of the other stuff. And then the IWW was also talking about the 4-hour workday, you know. So we should have that conversation at some point. How can we have this where it actually empowers us? Because the vision that we put out there is that we got to take control of production. And you know, that's going to require, and also reproduction. We have to like manage our communities too. You know, that's going to require reduction of the workday, but without penalizing us.
I got about 2 or 3 minutes before I start back.
Okay. Is there anything you wanted? Can Robert share anything on his mind real quick, and then?
Yeah, you go for it, Robert. Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I just say that we need a revolution in our union, because we have a union that sues its own members, that causes cops on its own members, that rejects members that's in the same union but a different local from coming to the meeting, when it clearly states in the Constitution that as long as you're at 18, you can come to whatever meeting, even if it's in a different state, it doesn't matter. But we got this jackass in office who think he's king, who thinks he's God, and does everything with his cronies to hide, hurt, deceit, and do everything against the members. So, you know, I really hope that the members wake up this election this year for union officers and get this fool a pink slip and put him back on the bus or put him back in another job, because he doesn't deserve to be our union president.
Thank you, Robert.
Thanks, Robert, and thanks for joining us, being with me here.
So how's the process of vitalizing the union?
A lot of times people reach out to me, hey, what do you think of this? And what do you think of that? And say, well, the coalition, we have these statements, we have these things. And it's like, why should I be the one? I mean, who am I? I tell people, I'm just a fool that throws rocks at windows. Other people say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we threw a rock through the window? And I'm like, I'll be right back. And I got this big rock. Let's see. Wait a minute, Erek, I didn't mean it. And we run. I was a pretty bad kid growing up. But but the revitalization of the union is based on that. So people like Robert, when people like that come to me and some of the other organizers, we embrace them. We're like, yeah, man, what do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? What do you want to organize? Anybody, and so we think it's working because the union leadership kind of follows what we do. They'll say stuff that we say. Like President Dixon, Local 308, he's starting to say stuff. Well, we need to have conductors. We need to have 2-person crews. I mean, I remember talking with him before he was president. He's like, no, ain't never gonna happen. Never. Ain't never gonna happen. Ain't never. Blah, blah, blah. And now he's like, yeah, we're gonna get the 2-person crews. It's like, gotcha. It's working. The protests. So they'll try to organize counter protests. Sometimes what they'll do when they know our protest is coming up, Keith Hill's notorious for this. This poor man, he's so scared of us. He'll post something on Facebook with a big cartoon emoji. Big announcement coming up, stay tuned. What? And then he, when he's talking on his Facebook lives, he's talking about that other group, they're against the union. They're trying to turn you against the union. And then he had a stewards class last weekend or the weekend before, and he kept bringing us up. It's like, wait a minute, you're trying to teach people about whatever, handling grievances, and you keep bringing us up. What's your problem?
Just going on like hateful rants.
Yeah, but more like but really subtle,
Okay.
bitter rants. He got interviewed by Black Club Chicago, and they brought us up to him. He's like, oh yeah, that coalition group. We made a meme out of that too. I wish they would just work with us instead of fighting us. But it's pretty hard to do when they're calling cops on you all the time. And what's hilarious is when we do our protests, and we've done protests at the union office too. During the height of the pandemic, we were demanding virtual membership meetings. They didn't want to do it. And so we would protest for it. And they always call the cops. So the cops are always surrounding us at our protests. So it's kind of like, I keep telling people, okay, you want the police, you think the police are the solution to our problems, but I guarantee you that they're going to send them after us when we start stepping up and do more militant actions as a union, because we're surrounded by police whenever we protest. It's like, okay, aren't you more worried about the rapists and the bank robbers? Nah, you worried about us? Okay. I hope that kind of answered your question. Let me know if not.
Yeah, we had a conversation with some neighbors where we were talking about there's more violence in the neighborhood, and a neighbor was like, we need more cops. And I brought up this idea like, hey, sometimes, it goes back to the bandit that you're talking about. Sometimes the solutions to our problems bring about other problems too. I was like, a lot of times, like, we don't talk about the crimes that cops commit. And a lot of it's unreported, like and you know what that's like there's so much stuff that breaks the rules, but we can't report that stuff, or we don't have time to report that stuff. because that's just the reality. We endure it all the time. And one of the neighbors was probably like the most vocal about it, saying that we need cops, more cops in the neighborhood. I was like, we should all think about what that might really mean. Like, what are our stories in dealing with police officers and stuff? And this neighbor was like thinking about it again, like, oh crap, you know what? Like, cops actually came into my home, trespassing my property, and accused me and my child of committing a crime that we didn't commit. And so those are a lot of times, like, we're just conditioned to think like more cops, more cops, more cops. And I think part of it too is because true solutions that eliminate the need for cops are not really put on the table, right? We look at at one set of crimes or one set of harms to peaceful society, but we don't look at like what caused that, or other ways in which things could, solve these problems as well. And that's a challenge of like all Chicagoans. Like, this is not a question that should be solely the responsibility of CTA workers, like people like me, citizens, passengers. We should all be working together to find out the answers to how y'all can be protected.
Yeah, and it's there. The desire is there. Whenever I talk with riders, they can relate to our struggle. Whenever I talk to other workers, other companies, Railroad Workers United, other union workers, we're all in the same thing. We're not unique. We're not exceptional, and you got all these young people wreaking havoc in the subway, in the trains. And the Mayor Lightfoot's solution is ban them from going downtown and more cops. They got nothing to do. I mean, I read about these people with their cars. Dang it, I forgot what it is. It's kind of like drag racing, and they go to certain corners and stuff, and they spin around and around their cars, and they just love it. They're having so much fun. Okay, so you want to arrest them now. You're impounding their cars. The thing where they're getting together, all they're doing is making smoke, but they're getting together. Why not find ways to work with them, to provide space for them to race their cars, provide the safety materials, whatever the PPE, the helmets, I don't know, be creative. Remember in the pandemic, it was right in the start, it was the summer of 2020. And I don't know if y'all saw, but there were these young Black men playing basketball, these teenagers at the park. And here comes Mayor Lightfoot out of her car with their security. Hey, go home. You guys need to go home. It's not safe. Go home. Go home. I'm like, what the hell? Get the ball and shoot some hoops with them. And then start talking with them and rapping with them. Hey, brother, why are you out here, man? It's really dangerous out here. You could just be talking to them. Well, maybe you'll find out they don't have a home. Maybe you'll find out the home they go to, they got their mother's boyfriend in there, and he's assaulting them or something. I don't know. Whatever. Maybe home is full of rats and mildew. I don't know. But it's like, goddamn, all you go home, obey, get out of here, do this, do that. You give these young people, you take it from them, you give them nothing, you promote nothing. And then you're like, oh, look at these bad kids. Oh, these bad kids. What do you expect? What do you expect? And then what happens? They get on drugs. And then they get hooked. And then them drugs, these psychotropics, they can turn things off and on in your head chemically in your body. And then you become like worse. And you'll never recover. You become mentally damaged. And this pot that they lace with all kind of weird stuff, What's happening to them? You know, it's destroying people.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like even harmful things and all that, it's because it's criminalized. Because a lot of things are criminalized. They mess with the drug supply system. Stuff that you think would be harmless, it's way more harmful. It changes your life in way bigger ways. And then there's also people, you know, you just send someone to jail. That's a very horrifying experience for many. It breaks a lot of people, and that creates more problems.
And Chris, when they get out, then where can they work?
They got the record.
Right. But what they can do, they can come to the CTA Second Chance program. Sounds good. Sounds good. You got a felony, you got a record, come on down. But then you have minimum wage. You're doing 40 hours, 40 hours. You have no picking rights, which means you can't, by seniority, pick a location. So week to week, maybe day to day, management will send you to this shop and that shop. You don't have any benefits, very weak medical, no dental, you know, so, and then you get assigned to some work that the full-timers are doing. It's very dangerous, walking through the yards, using chemical wash, graffiti removal. That's a full-timer supposed to do that. And then you get burned up. We got these second chancers, these poor, majority Black and Latino. Black and Latino, they come, they're like, God, I'm in the CTA, yes. Then all of a sudden, some of them, their hands are, the skin is like melting off their hands. And they don't know what to do, they scared. And I'm a union steward. I'm a local 308 union steward. So I'm dealing with this stuff like every damn week. The CTA is violating the collective bargaining agreement. These second chancers are only supposed to do two things. They're only supposed to sweep the trains at the terminals and remove graffiti that's inside the train. But now the CTA got these poor people walking the yards, cleaning bathrooms, dealing with chemicals on the outside of the train, cleaning up human body waste. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then some of them quit. And what do they have? What do they go to? And some of them get trapped up, and then they get back in, they get locked up again. It's sad.
I was telling Jeff, I was like, you know, one of the things that a lot of social workers do is they just like refer people to different entities. And like you're just referring people to programs that you don't know what it's really like on the inside. And it's just like, I couldn't do that. Like that shit tears me up. And then you see people like, you know, they want to do the right thing, but the right thing is just so brutal. And it's just like, it's just facilitating a race to the bottom for you. Like there's no support. And, you know, what you're talking about, the homelessness, you know, that reminds me of like some of the complaints I hear from Chicago public school workers, that a big problem they deal with, a lot of children are homeless in Chicago. Like it's one of the things that like disrupts the learning environment the most is the homelessness of the children, right? But then, you know, you have people, you know, telling these kids, oh, they're just like delinquents, you know, you're like, you don't know what's really going on.
No. And they come on the trains, they live on the trains, they hang out. It's all they got. It's all they got. And you know, no, I'm sorry. If I'm operating a train, I used to be, I don't like it when these young people keep pulling open the doors and I can't leave the station because I need to get to the other end, you know, because I need my break. I need to go to the bathroom, whatever, you know what I mean? And it's so stressful. And so the operators now, I want the police here now, you know, I can't blame them. I've done it. I've done those calls, you know, and so like the CTU, CORE actually, because, you know, CORE, see the CTU used to be, Chicago Teachers Union used to be a lot like what we are now, a straight up business union at the ATU. but it was core caucus of rank and file educators that, and we kind of, they're one of our models at the Justice Coalition. They reformed it. They put more democracy. They're more militant in CTU. But one of the keys to their success was reaching out to the parents, reaching out to the stakeholders, who's involved at the schools, in helping the parents help the children. So who is our stakeholders at the CTA? It's the riders. It's people that ride, and the union leadership does not want to engage with them because all they tell us is, well, the riders, they think we make too much and they're this and they don't care and this and that. Well, maybe some do, but not all. So that we need to build an alliance because we need the riders, because you see this picture behind me. This is a photograph from the 1979 strike at the CTA. It was a Wildcat, by the way. The union leadership was not supportive of it at all. In 1968, same thing. But these are strikes that were recorded. There's been lots of strikes in different levels that they've never been official or recorded. Back in the 40s, they used to strike all the time. Before that, all the time, right? It was like, oh, they're playing cards during a strike. It was just like a common thing. But now, no. But you see behind me, that was the last time we had a strike, was in 1979. I mean, I was 6 years old. I just moved to Chicago. You know what I mean? It would have been in totally, I don't know, what? Strike? What does that mean? So the riders' interests and our interests do converge, but we have to be out there working, being seen, being heard, and especially when stuff happens, when these crimes happen, to be on the news, for the union president to be on the news, either Keith Hill or Eric Dixon saying, we're pushing for a CTA police force. That's your response. I mean, the riders are saying, we need security, we need people, we need this, we need that. But whenever there's a uniformed employee on the train or bus, a second one, the troublemakers go elsewhere, generally. Not all the time, but generally. And it helps to have a second person on your train or your bus to assist you as an operator. It makes it go by so much smoother. And that's just one little thing that can help alleviate the stress of the operators. But then if we have full-time jobs for all, two-person crews, full-time jobs for all that pay well, right? And we're talking, ideally, we should always be pushing, we should always be evolving to what? 4-day work weeks or 6-hour work days. But when you have that, that provides opportunities in the community. Then the people who terrorized you yesterday may come and work for you today, and they'll be able to keep that job. Something to think about.
What are the benefits I hear as a non-unionized worker, other than outside of the IWW? My workplace is not directly unionized. And I hear a lot when the topics of unions come up. I hear a lot of folks say, they're worthless, or, there's no point in unionizing. What are some of the benefits of people getting involved in unions? I'll let you take that, Erek.
Like in your union.
Yeah, specifically in your union, yeah.
And that also includes the CT, Chicago Transit Justice Coalition. You're muted.
So, the coalition is a rank and file caucus. We're not a union. We're trying to get people to get involved in their union and hold the leadership accountable. But that's okay. The union leadership says we're some other renegade union, so it's fine. All publicity is good publicity. ATU Chicago. Get involved, dear coworkers, for its potential. use what little we have left of a union to fight back. As a steward, I'm volunteer, right? I'm not in Local 308, we're not elected. We got to try to get into a class that the president holds whenever he feels like it. And I had to fight to get in. They didn't want me in that first one. They made sure I didn't get in there. They found some excuse like, oh, you're already in the program. I'm like, no, I never finished the class because I had to go to work. And they're like, no. So I protested at this union steward class with a bullhorn. They were so mad. But I got in the next one a couple months later. And because we have a union, yeah, like Erek, you crazy, man. Yeah, I am. So look at it this way. A couple, I don't know, 2 months ago. Well, basically, when we have a union, when we have the ATU, we can fight back with a lot less retribution from management. And we have something called the contract. We have something called past practice. We have something called just cause. All these little things that are kind of ambiguous almost, but they exist and can be used. And so we had a coworker who English is not his first language at all. And they couldn't wait to nail him because they found that he deposited his paycheck twice. Now, keep in mind, he's had trouble getting paid. He had, it's just been delay after delay out of training. So he uses this app, this bank app, to photograph the phone, and he accidentally sent it twice. They were gonna fire the man. So the brothers, when I came into work early, I come to work early. I come real early. I come before everybody. And they said, hey, Erek, man, they're coming after so-and-so. They want him to fill out this report. They wanted that. And I'm like, oh, no, okay, cool, I got it, So I go to the manager. I said, what's this, man? What's this about? Where you want to see him? What did he do wrong? Oh, we just want to ask him some questions. Questions about what? Tell me. No, he's not gonna answer your questions without talking to me first. You see, I'm a union steward, so I can hit back, and if they try to write me up, I can do what's called an unfair labor practice. And those things can help. That's a legal thing by the state board that the state board recognized, the state of Illinois, the government, okay? So long story short, I had to fight, and I was like, he's not doing anything without me seeing it. And lo and behold, I helped him write the report so it didn't incriminate himself. But they were gonna fire him because they had the GM there. The GM is the general manager, is the only one that can really fire people. The senior managers really can't. They can recommend, they can write you up. And so they just wanted questions. And he basically said, I accidentally took a second picture, and here's the bank saying that only one went in, and I settled it with the bank. And they're like, oh, okay, all right, no problem, thank you. And I left, and the brother's like, thank you. And I do that kind of thing. So I tell coworkers, you can call me, you can call the vice president of the union, and we actually help people in most cases, in many cases, not get fired or get the write-up thrown out. And because I'm such a pest as a personality at the CTA, sometimes when the managers hear the coworkers say, I'm gonna call Erek Basir because this isn't right, they say, okay, forget it, here. No write-up. Doesn't happen all the time. But that's an advantage. So imagine I'm just one person, right? We have our vice presidents, we have some others. Most of the union officers are sellouts. They're like, yeah, just sign the write-up. They're just bad. So I try to educate the members in their rights. So just having a union at the CTA is actually pretty good. It's a business, it's a company union, but it is something we can work with, and we can improve it.
So you've used the term company union and business union a few times. there are some people who don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And I think if you can explain that and give some insight about like what's the alternative. You know, I heard the term revolutionary used earlier.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Okay. So company union is a pejorative for a union that is co-opted by the management of the company, where they proudly state, this is our union, and we're working with the union, and they're working with us, and we're working out some things with the union. You know, and the union says, yeah, the company, you know, you just got to follow the rules, and the company, and they're doing this. So they function as a HR or an auxiliary management for the company. Unionism is a expression of being in a union. We have to distinguish what kind, we have to qualify what you mean when you say unionism. I'm not talking about you, Chris. I'm saying generally. The word unionism is thrown out. Oh, well, what do you mean by that? Scientifically, we have to qualify that. Are you talking about a business unionism or revolutionary unionism? Now we have to define things, okay? A business unionism is a methodology of organizing from a top-down structure where we elect a boss to tell us what to do, to tell us when to speak up, when to be quiet, when to strike, when not to strike, when to question the manager, when not to question the manager. The leadership is very much disconnected from the membership based on the principle, you elect me to make decisions on your behalf. That is business unionism. And it's strictly business. We do our business and the CTA does their business. And we cannot tell the CTA what to do. And they cannot tell us what to do. They're always telling us what to do. Shh. Revolutionary unionism, as defined by industrial workers of the world, because that's where the phrase is coined, is a bottom-up form of organizing where the rank and file, the membership or the workers, the people who pay the dues or maybe not, have a say and control of what is done at the top, because the top is merely there to empower the masses to do what they democratically decide to do. So when the membership is controlling the union and the boss is the membership, that is revolutionary unionism. Also, revolutionary unionism is defined by rank and file direct action. Got to break that down a little bit. There's direct action and there's indirect action, and there's public action. Direct action is when we, the workers, confront our boss, our manager, supervisor, employer, when they violate our rights or our dignity, and we confront them immediately. We say, ho, 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 we have a puddle over here, the roof is leaking. Can you please have this taken care of? Or why are you writing up so-and-so and he didn't do anything wrong? You never write the other people up. So let's forget that, okay? That's direct action. Indirect action is where something is happening, we call somebody. We call the union. And we say, hey, the union, Mr. President, Mr. Representative, Mr. Board Member, can you please help us? And they say, it's no big deal. Don't worry about it. Just, just do it. Just do what they say. We'll write a grievance later if you want. I'll help you out. I'll write it for you, in fact. we have a contract. We're enforcing the contract indirectly. And then you have public action where we go out into the public and say, the boss did this to us and the boss is doing that to us. Maybe we're off the clock, so they really can't write us up. So revolutionary unionism really functions best as direct action, whether you have a contract or not, whether your contract sucks or it doesn't. You're the authority. You're taking power right there in the workplace. What do y'all think of those definitions? Maybe you have some things to add or change in what I said.
I think they're good. A lot of people, they equate the term unionism to business unionism or company unionism, which mean more or less the same thing, right? And we just want to make sure, for those who have never heard of the idea of unions that are actually like really, really democratic, beyond the hypocritical rhetoric that we hear about a lot of unions, like there is a real thing, a real alternative that exists. And I think it also means something for those who live outside of union environments. Because a lot of people, unfortunately, who don't live in areas where there are unions, they look up to the business unions. Like that's all they know about, and they think that's the best thing that there is. And like, no, there's something better. Forget all that stuff. Just jump right into revolutionary unionism.
Right. Is it just me, but do you guys have like this anxiety about the Starbucks worker unionization efforts and the Amazon and like, oh God, I hope they're not making contracts with no strike clauses and top-down organization where you elect the boss, right? Am I the only one that feels this way? I'm like interviewing you now. I'm turning the tables just for a minute. I wanted to ask you all, am I the only one that feels this anxiety, this dread that the Starbucks workers and the Amazon workers are hooking up with these big box unions, these business unions, and they're going to be giving crap. They're going to be having crappy constitutions that give all the power to the executive board and have no strike clauses in the contracts.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially for big, like high profile union campaigns like these, doesn't set a great example. I feel like even if they got, in fully integrated with these bigger unions, then it would be, publicized. And if there's any other sort of like big campaigns later on in the future with other, big companies, it's going to go around, same thing's going to happen again. But yeah, I feel that anxiety. I feel like it sets a bad precedent, and that's not even to mention like it might go south if they do that. It might not work out in their favor. So besides being a bad precedent, it might just be a bad strategy too. So yeah, for myself, I could agree with that.
Glad I'm not alone.
Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so, and I'll be completely honest, that wasn't a major concern of mine until you mentioned it right now. I mean, that there's some serious implications there. I mean, and that's definitely something to think about. I'm more concerned with these big, up until, this got brought up, one of my major concerns with these guys, the first thing that comes to mind is these high profile union strikes, Starbucks workers, Amazon workers, when they are public and they publicly get crushed. You know what that does for the morale of the movement. But yeah, no, that's a concern. I mean, that what you brought up, Erek, is yeah, I mean, there's some pretty serious implications for the movement.
I'd suggest, if you haven't done it yet, if you want to get into your nerd self, look up Amazon labor union and read their constitution. It's horrifying. It's horrific. I just have to say, I mean, I thought ours was bad. I mean, theirs is not as bad as the ATU, but it's bad because it's a top-down type of thing. Executive board is like, can make decisions. It's really scary to me. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very, that phrase, the revolution will not be televised. That's something that comes to mind a lot. And to me, but it also points to the importance of finding out what's not being televised to inspire people.
Yeah.
And it's sad because I even see like radicals are people who would call themselves revolutionary unionists who are putting out, a lot of this stuff as the model. So like when it came to like there's going to be some municipalist event, and what did happen, I think it was like coming out of like Los Angeles or something, and I think before or after the event happened or something, I sent them an email, like, because they had mentioned in the information about the event, they're like, hey, there's exciting stuff going on right now. The Amazon effort in New York was one of them. And I sent an email saying like, basically what I'm saying now, but I was like, if you want to talk about kind of like Amazon organized, you should really mention the Solidarity Unionists in Chicago, because they're achieving things, but nobody's covering them, right? They don't have the money to be covered. They don't also have the friendliness with the institutions to be covered, but they're growing. They've achieved wage increases without even like they don't even care about being recognized as a union by Amazon. Like they're saying we're not going to play that game. We're going to make the rules. Like, because ultimately that's the goal, is we're going to make the rules. We're going to take it over. And the way that you do that is you do it, right? Don't try to like
Amazonian United. Amazonians United.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. They got it. They got it. They got it.
Yeah, and they're growing, and just like a lot of people, they don't get to know about it because the movement isn't reporting on it enough. And it's exciting hearing about like the life of the union inside. And to a lot of people, we're conditioned to think that, oh, if an organization has the most prominence or the more members, the most visibility, that's the model. But I don't think that's the case, especially if we're talking about revolution. And it just reminds me of this like letter that was written by the Libertarian Youth of Madrid. Like, what is this, like it was called their censored letter to the Spanish CNT's 11th Congress, and they were kind of complaining about the corruption in the union. And there's something that that pops out of me all the time, and this is something so basically they're saying that a lot of the unions in the union, that they're like, the hegemony and the adoration goes to like the big unions that happen to have more money. But they said, they forget that having more members doesn't mean anything. What really matters is the daily militancy, the ability to spread liberatory ideas, the capacity to take these ideas into the streets and to make them a daily reality. So a lot of times, we shouldn't care about like what's prominent or what's being televised. We should be looking at what's the quality of the relationships, what's the quality of the activity, like the quality of the energy.
This is it. This is the heart of revolutionary unionism. They get it. The contract. And it's really kind of cool to look at revolutionary unionism in its purest form, which IWW, I think, ritualistically has ownership of, and that is contract. What's that? Right now, we contract, okay, we'll get a contract, but right now we need to take power right now. you know, because we could talk about certification, recertification, decertification, recognition, blah, blah, blah. Will the company recognize us? We have to make them recognize us. And what's so crazy about all of this stuff we're talking about, union recognition, certification, all this stuff, contracts, this was crafted by the corporations. They did this. Their man in the White House, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, a brilliant man, a brilliant strategist, right? He's like, you know what? Yeah, these people are really upset. They slowing stuff down, you know, because the corporate people were coming, hey, bro, you know, we need to make money, these people. You know, we're trying to shoot them and stuff, but it's not looking good. It's making us look bad. He's like, yeah, you look kind of bad shooting these people and killing them and firing them and blacklisting them. I'm sorry, shouldn't say blacklist, I should say, because black is beautiful, but, you know, ruining their careers, right? We're going to pass a law, NLRA, and we're going to make sure that every employer that has a union, everybody who works there has to join it with dues checkoff. And the union people went, yeah, I like that. You mean that sort of stewards don't have to go around and collect dues from the members? And if they're angry and say, I don't want to pay this month, they're going to have to pay anyways? I like that. Give me that National Labor Relations Act. And you're going to have to recognize the union. And you're going to have to recognize the contract. And we're going to have a board. And if you don't obey the union contract, they're going to refer you to the board. And the board's going to come and wag their finger at you. And you're going to pay a fine of $200. Like, yeah, I can do that. Thanks, Teddy. I mean, Freddie. I mean, FDR, whatever the hell your name is. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, and now this is what we do. We need recognition. And I tell people this and they're like, really? I didn't know that. I said, yeah. You know, and yeah, it doesn't mean our fight was not worth anything, but it's like, look, we got to get a little beyond business unionism because that's a construct that it's going to kill us.
Yeah, so I mean, I wish these workers all the best. A lot of them, you know, they don't. Unfortunately, like there's some of us who like we can kind of predict what's going to happen based on our own experiences, with conversations we're hearing. You know, I hope that we're wrong, you know, because, you know, but I'm pretty sure if things are going along as I predict, and as probably you predict, which is what gives you anxiety, there's going to be a lot of disappointed workers, a lot of workers that just like, just going to want to walk away from the idea of unions and might not even discover the idea of like worker self-management, full worker takeover, which is a reality with the worker cooperative movement. It's a reality. Mm-hmm. Workers are taking control of production in the United States and all over the world. It's a reality. And some of them, they're not going through the route of a union. They're just like, the union is optional for some and they'll integrate the union along the way, but some are saying, no, we're just going to take over production. We don't need a boss or investors that don't support us having full control. That's a fact. It's already happening. It's growing really fast in the United States. But I just hope that if there's any of these workers who are organizing the Starbucks or Amazon who, you know, they feel like they get scammed or they feel like they get abandoned, right? Because if it's a top-run campaign, what often happens is union priorities shift, right? And a lot of times the union's priorities or the business union priorities is not to actually unionize a workplace, it's to lobby.
Money.
And so that, you know, something like that might happen and then they just get dropped and right. And they're left to live with the consequences. And I just hope that those people who are living through that they find people like us who are willing to continue fighting, you know, who it's not about, our priorities are different from company union priorities. And I hope that like whatever experience they're gaining, including that experience of getting burned and abandoned mid-fight, I hope that just inspires them, you know, sharpens them up for the bigger battles to come.
Yeah. And you know, we have at Labor Notes, you know, we were there together, you and I. I don't know, were you there, Jeffrey? Labor Notes?
I was not. Yeah,
okay. But you saw it there, you know what I mean? You kind of saw business unionism as a you know, a false religion, but it was still accepted as mainstream. What's her name of the workers, the flight attendants, Sarah something. Why did I forget her name? I don't know. Anyways, and I was listening to her speak, and she's a superstar, and she walks in there like, ah, you know, and then she leaves, and you know, she's got to go meet somewhere else. She's got to do another workshop, and she's talking about how we got to follow our marching orders, and we did this and we did that. What you doing now? You know, with your big salary. You know, I just I really wanted to ask questions. I had my hand up, but she left. I guess it was good I didn't say anything. They probably would have, Labor Notes might have called the cops on me. But you know, the real thing, Chris, Jeff, and Colin, when we look at history, is the general strike. The general strike. And we see it in certain places around the world, in Africa, South America, Central, Europe, and Asia. And it's not talked about. But when whole cities, whole regions shut down, that is power. And that is where the unions make it or break it. And when the air traffic controllers went on strike during President Reagan's first term, everyone says, yeah, they shouldn't have done it. They should have just accepted it. No. It was the AFL-CIO and the machinists. I am machinists that sold them out. They didn't want to strike in solidarity. Yeah. And that's where we lose. So they could say, yeah, ATU 308 or 241 is going to have a strike. Yeah, that'll be nice, I guess. CTU is going to have a strike. That'll be nice. UAW had a strike in 2019, but it was a farce. And them poor people, those workers, sacrificed a lot, but the union leadership already sold them out, you know? So what we can do in our little union, it's good, keep going, but don't get satisfied with that, because that's not gonna help us win a 4-day work week or 6-hour work day, because that's what we need as human beings, you know, to be productive and survive, you know. That's not what we're going to get for healthcare, Medicare for all. You know, it's not going to happen for voting. We're not going to vote a change. You know, it's not going to happen. It's the general strike. It's the only way. Sorry.
So Erek, how much time do you have left?
I got some time. I mean, I'll give you time, whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm very busy right now. I have to go meet with the alderman. The alderman.
Yeah, no, it's really sad when you see people like they're trying to like do good in their life. Like at least what I see like in the hood, you know, people like they feeling empowered or like they gotten out of jail and they want to do the right thing, and then they're like, hey, do you know the alderman? Like that's how I'm gonna like become empowered, and like let's not go that route, man. Like let's
Did y'all kind of like cringe when you saw some headline about Stacey Davis Gates making an announcement about mayor or something? And I was like, oh God, no.
Man.
And then luckily she didn't, but some other dude. It was like he's on the staff of CTU, but he also works for the city. And he announced he's running. And I'm like, what the hell is this? I don't know. I'm sorry. That's just,
Yeah, I'll just put this out there. And if you're my friend or my neighbor and you're gonna go for a political office, or I'm not gonna help you get there. Like unless there's some like very like something like libertarian municipalism that we're talking about, where all the power is transferred from the politician or the statesperson to community. Like we shouldn't even have that discussion.
yeah. If you're running for alderman and you pledge and you put it in writing, I'm gonna have town halls every week and not make any vote on anything without your permission, without you guys debating it and then deciding democratically if I should do it. Oh, if you're like that, I'll vote for you. But other than that, don't tell me I'm gonna fight. I grew up, my daddy was in a union. And I've been a lawyer for 20 years on the American Bar Association. Oh, okay. Yeah. Click.
So sorry Colin, I think I'm gonna help us to like land the plane for today. We'll just have to do another interview again in the future, but
no, seriously, I'm here, go ahead, squeeze
sure?
all the time you can out of me,
because
we may not be able to do it again, right?
Okay.
We never know, right?
Okay, so
we never know. I might die tomorrow, I don't know. People been telling me I'm gonna get assassinated, so I'm like, all right.
That's like the
I
gallows.
told my wife, I said, it's been great.
It's like the gallows humor of the struggle and of the ghetto.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, the hood. Yeah. So I know that there's like new work. There's workers that fall into the cracks when they join like any company, right? Sometimes there's a union and they don't even know the union. No one taps their shoulder. So like if like anybody listening to this, like they know somebody who's going to get into the CTA or one of its programs, they're a worker, like what's the best way for them to like connect with you and your other coworkers who are in there fighting to create a real workers union?
Oh, so ChicagoTransitWorker.com is a great start. And we have a button there that says know your rights.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of very good information there. Also, we have virtual meetings, so you can register for that. So you can actually register with the coalition. So we recommend people do that. The other thing is to actually try to attend the monthly membership meetings. I haven't missed a meeting. Well, I've missed a couple, but I generally don't miss them. It's very depressing now for me to go, so it's hard to go. But I really recommend you're going to start at CTA, start attending the local 241 or local 308 membership meetings, because we need people there to start. We got to take control of the union, and we can do a lot at the membership meeting that we can't do if we're not there. Making motions and stuff, supporting people who are in the coalition that go, such as myself, who make these motions, these bylaw reforms. We're doing a lot of things. I mean, it's coming on 3 years. We put forward almost 20 bylaw reforms and we lose all the time. Because people don't show up. The people who believe in these things don't show up. The people that are scared of it, they show up, and that's the union people. They bring their people in. We did 18 bylaw reforms in 1 month one time. And the president freaked out. He's like, no, so what he did is he called the people who sponsored these bylaws on the phone and tried to get them to retract. And that didn't work. So he said, well, is it possible that Brother Erek put your name on this and you can say that he forced you into this because these aren't appropriate bylaws? And they're like, no. So he's going to try to get it like I forged people's names and stuff, you know. And so at the next meeting, he said, yeah, we got these bylaw reforms, but they're inappropriately written. So here, try again. And he threw them out. And they were properly written. He's so full of crap, you know. And now he's not there anymore. We got some other dope. And then that guy who threw him out, he came up to me this summer and said, yeah, I like some of the things that you were proposing for bylaw reforms. I said, oh, these are the same ones you threw out. You said they weren't properly written. Get out of my face. You're full of it. What a loser. So yeah, get involved. Get in, because boy, we could do a lot. How does that?
Yeah, and if hey, stuff happens, man. If your website gets taken down because y'all are making too much headway, reach out to us and we'll make that connection. Because if you're not getting repressed, you're you know, if you're not having the cops call on you, that's kind of a sign that you're not changing enough things. Yeah. And y'all are getting the cops calling you, so that means that y'all are really doing some great stuff.
There's something interesting you should know. So Local 308 traditionally has these barbecues, these picnics, these outings, whatever they're called. Spends a lot of money of our money, thousands, over 10,000 sometimes. And last year we went, there were 3 of us. And, you know, one, she's a little more independent, but she's a part-timer. Well, she's very vocal. Her name is Cheryl Sistrunk. And she had a table. And we went over there to support her. We had signs that said full-time jobs for all, and the CTA is disrespecting workers. And they called the cops on us. You know, this year we went and we set up what we call the strike table. We had signs, we had stickers that said strike, and we walked around with the signs greeting people. You know, some were mad. It's like, why are you protesting at the union barbecue? It's like, no, we're just trying to inspire coworkers to speak up. But they didn't call the cops this time. So that was interesting.
So what are some of the union's demands currently?
Right now, ATU Chicago, Local 241-308 is a CTA police force. They want a CTA police force and some less emphasized things is for the workers to be able to carry firearms. Sorry, I have to laugh. It's not funny, but it is really sad. That's it. I mean, that's it. They want a CTA police force. But at the coalition, we are encouraging the members on many issues. I'll name a couple. One of them, of course, is full-time jobs for all. And we can start fighting for that now. This contract that we're in now ends at the end of 2023, December 31st, 2023. So now is the time. 2-person crews on all jobs, especially on the front line, bus and rail. We need the restoration of our jobs. What I mean by that is because of the manpower shortage, the CTA may be down a good couple thousand people. So because of that, as a union, we can pick our jobs. We can pick based on seniority what type of work we do in our different departments. So we're getting less of those because there's less people, but what that means is when they bring in new people, they're assigned jobs that sometimes the people with more seniority can pick. In the maintenance department, we are demanding that we get our full 8 hours or 4 hours for overtime. The CTA tried cutting back on that. We had to do a class action grievance on that. The second chance workers who are in maintenance, these are the rail car cleaners, the bus cleaners, are being made to do more and more full-time work. So we're demanding that these people be turned over. The customer service assistants have to be turned over to full-time. These are the people that you'll see in the booths, kind of like ticket agents. They help people out with the little ticket machines, the Ventra machines. We have a job classification on the rail side called towermen, and basically they route trains in and out at busy junctions and at terminals. What happens is on the lines such as the purple line, the green line, the pink line, the brown line, on the weekends, there is no towerman or tower person on duty. So the train operators have to route their paths out or into the terminals or out of certain areas by hand with this thing they got to reach out the window and do. And it's just one other unsafe thing. It takes away jobs from people who can pick what's called towermen, qualified people. Switchman tricks. Trick is another name for a pick job. Sorry, I'm using CTA lingo here. Switchman jobs are being cut. And now it's kind of like sometimes there's only one switchman available to do the job, but it's a 2-person job. And so it's unsafe. In the rail maintenance where I work, we work on the trains. We actually repair and replace parts on trains. We have just filthy working conditions, filthy bathrooms. There's no janitors that can pick working at the shops. We have to do it, or the car servicers have to come and do it. We're cleaning jacks, these things that lift up the trains with all kinds of chemicals and stuff that aren't good for the jacks that lift up the trains. And so the stuff falls to the basement, dries up, and there's these puddles of toxic goo that emanate fumes up where we work. Sometimes we don't have the parts that we need. You see what I'm talking about? You know, it's just on and on and on. So the Justice Coalition, we are tuned in to what the workers want, and we're trying to get the union leadership to do that. But they're more worried about the CTA police force. Go ahead. Next question, I guess.
So, you know, when you list like all these problems, I can see how somebody might say like, I don't want to work at CTA. But you know, what would you say to people who, you know, who like, because we should be getting people in to support the democratization of the CTA, and I advocate full worker takeover of the CTA. You know, elected. If there's going to be management, it would be elected. And everybody's revocable at all times, kick out the parasites, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, so I'm trying to do my part for that. Like, I think it's needed for this city as a passenger of the CTA and stuff. Like, that's really important for me.
So the full-time jobs are pretty good. Okay. You know, you can see our salaries online through the CTA website. You can work as much overtime as you can handle, and you can make 6 digits. I would never do that. I can't do that. But some people do it, and they basically live there and give up everything. But I get paid very well to do my job as a mechanic, you could say, of the rail cars. They call us repairers, rail car repairers. We're more like technicians and or mechanics, whatever you want to call it. Same with the bus side. When we have a lot of responsibility, but we can do our jobs generally and take the time that we need to do it right. Managers would like us to do it faster, and they would like us to clean trains faster and repair trains faster, like the train operators to move faster, but you can't do that. So we need people who want to work safely, that want to make a union that is strong, that will take power from the employer, not give power to the employer. We need that. But if you got to start part-time, it's going to be hard. If you want to be on the transportation side, you got it on the rail side, you basically got to start part-time. It's horrible. It's horrible. On the bus side, no, not necessarily. Now, on the maintenance side, you can come in full-time for my department. I hope that answers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we got to find ways to support people who want to go in, especially if they're going to get like these part-time jobs that are very difficult. I mean, like I know that with the warehouse organizing and Amazon, one of the first people who started up, they actually, you know, I let them live with me so they could help get that started. Like, you know, unusual arrangements, you know, people, you know, we got to get clever about how we can support each other. And is the caucus a place where people can get support? Like if they're, you know, they're a part-time person, but, you know, they have all these barriers to staying involved. I mean, to surviving as a CTA worker.
Yeah. So we're all volunteer. We don't have resources, but for example, we have some co-organizers that are part-timers, and we offered to pay for registration for labor notes, you know, and one did take advantage of that. The other thing is we have sometimes when we meet, it's hard for these part-timers to travel or to eat where we go. So we're like, oh, we'll pay your way. You know what I mean? And we put our money together to pay for their gas or their food. You know what I'm saying? As full-timers. So that's a little something about what you're talking about.
And it shouldn't be on y'all though. Like if you have someone who lives like in my neighborhood, little village, and they're trying to stay involved, like reach out to me.
Yes, sir.
And we got to have that. Like if they're my neighborhood, or like we should be identifying like where people are living and find like what are the local groups that will support them to survive, you know, in the CTA, you know, to help us democratize the CTA.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm.
Erek, can you talk about the Hour of Power protests a little bit?
No, I cannot.
All right, talk to
I have to get permission from the union president to discuss that. Of course, I will definitely. Let me share the screen, okay?
Go for it.
Great.
So I have this handy PowerPoint. No, just kidding. But it's just the website I'm going to share. Okay, so this is ChicagoTransitWorker.com. And right here, take action. I'm gonna click on that button and previous actions. So the Hour of Power, these are, I'm just gonna scroll down to the various ones that we've done. The Hour of Power, some of these are not Hour of Power, but Hour of Power is in there, are totally democratically organized actions. So that is, we make a poll and we put all the various different locations and we encourage people to come and vote. Where do you want the next Hour of Power? It's 1 hour protest, no less, no longer. So that way people can come, they know what to expect of themselves, what's expected of them. They can bring signs that say anything they want. They can handwrite signs. They can bring noisemakers. We don't censor them at all. And we just have fun, and we'll march around, we'll do maybe some speeches. And here you go, we got actions going back to 2019. And we did some work with Transit Workers Unite, which brother Erek Slater, who you're familiar with, he was fired. The union president, Keith Hill, collaborated with the CTA to get him fired. He's still an executive board member, but Keith Hill makes sure he doesn't get paid for any time or do any work. He tries to block him all the time. But the majority of this is hear what we do. And the topics are always up to the members. So it's called Hour of Power because it's only 1 hour where you have the power to fight for and demand better working conditions. And it's just a test to help inspire the coworkers to step up and speak out. And we've been growing, we slowly they get bigger and bigger, but we're trying to encourage members with the Hour of Power to organize their own protests. And you'll see right here at this one right here, this coworker, she's like, I want to organize a protest. And we said, you tell us when and where. And that's what we do. We support the workers, what they want to do. I want to write a petition. So we tell them, okay, we'll help you. Do you want us to help you? And they're like, yeah, help me. So we have these petitions, different things. Sorry, the links are kind of screwy looking. But this, warming buses, second chancers, some of these are union member petitions. Some of them flopped, but that's what happens. It is people lose interest and they, Does that answer? What do you think?
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's great.
And then
So-
we did I did it like a really long speech at the midway one. It was like 10 minutes. I was like, oh my God, that was pretty horrific. Sorry. But it's there if you want to watch it.
Yeah. Very cool.
I thought it was a great speech. So like, is there a pattern to when they happen, and like what's a way we can know ahead of time when and where each one's gonna be? Like how can people stay plugged into the Hour of Power ones? Because since they happen at different locations, I think people need some good heads up.
Yeah, I mean, we do the best we can with what we have to promote it through our meetings, our email, Twitter, and Facebook. And then we actually do promotions where we make videos promoting. Okay, we're at such and such garage, or we're at such and such terminal. And we talked with the coworkers about such and such and so and so. You'll see it at the Justice Coalition YouTube channel. So it's still hard, so it's kind of like where we don't really have a pattern of it, right? Like right now, we haven't made a poll for the next Hour of Power. And I don't know if we're going to do that. It's looking like a lot of our energy is going to be focused on the next 2 months for the local 241 election, because we have some candidates that we're trying to run and we want them to get in local 241. That's the bus side. And that's going to take a lot of energy.
How else does corruption look like in your union? What other ways does it play out?
So corruption in the union plays out at the membership meetings. It's very evident. And that's why it's good to go, because the more you go, the more you learn and you see. The membership meeting is constructed in a way to bore the people and to frustrate the people. the process of motions are generally made by the officials, not the members. And when the members have questions, instead of teaching the members and empowering the members with the knowledge, well, it sounds like you want this to happen. Do you having a problem with this? Okay, that would be a motion. So you should say, I move that such and such happens. They don't do that. They just say, no, we already tried that. That didn't work. Next question. You know, or no, the CTA is not going to go along with that. You know, and it's like, what? You know, members, well, someone would complain and say, yeah, you know, we don't have the right equipment to clean up human body parts after someone's been run over by a train. You'll say, okay, well, give me a call later. You know, we'll talk about it. You know, instead of saying, so you end up having to work with the officials. What's going on with the money with such and such? You can make an appointment with the secretary next week. You know, it's the votes for elections. They elect each other. They nominate each other there. You'll see that when that happens. Whenever there's vacancies, you'll see that, wow, we're having an election for this position. I never knew about that. It's because they don't promote it, you know. That's an example.
And I remember at the Hour of Power protest, there was like some other things that were mentioned, like COVID money. And what was would you like to talk about that a little bit? I think there's two things that come, the COVID money, and then what else was going on? Sorry.
The PPP.
Yeah.
The payroll protection program. So our union and many other locals took out money, took out payroll protection loans. Never asked the membership permission. They just did it because they wanted to do it. And now that money's gone for Local 308. They said they spent it on payroll. Okay. But they said they were doing this so that we could have money for actions, for job actions. That's what Eric Dixon said. He used the word job actions. He had some little protests, and they had the mayor there and the police chief, and they hugged her and stuff. That was nice. There was never any kind of hazard pay. No, they called it a bonus, but what they did is when we approved the tentative agreement, instead of giving us a retroactive pay, bonus, whatever, they called it hazard pay.
Is that related to the PPP, the agreement that you just mentioned?
No, separate things. But you know, they just used the CTA had the money, has the money, whatever, and the union leadership didn't want to make a claim for it. But they said they did, and it was so pathetic. It was sad.
So the PPP, there were some union officials, they requested money from the government. They said it was going to be used, yeah, you said for job actions.
Well, they were going to use it to pay payroll, right? The union payroll. But then that would preserve money in the general fund for job actions, which never happened. They used the money for other stuff, you know. You know, they make motions for conventions and banquets and $1,000 here, $1,000 there. It's sad.
How is Erek Slater?
Well, I spoke with him last week. He's job hopping, you know, struggling, obviously. And he still helps Local 241 members. He had shared some advice for me. I'm a Local 308 delegate too. I was nominated to the convention, and I barely made it. They were trimming because they were trimming the amount of delegates because so many people are no longer paying dues. And we have a lot of people who don't pay dues. We got people that are fired, they're not paying dues. So I barely made it. So he had some tips for me. But yeah, he's struggling. He's not going to be able to run again. He's finishing out his term because he's terminated. No word on the if there's going to be a return to work, but the president of Local 241 has worked very hard to make sure that Erek Slater has a very slim chance of coming back.
So a lot of, I remember hearing one side of how Erek was effectively pushed out of the workplace, but you brought up a different facet of it that I wasn't aware of. The first that I heard of Erek Slater was in 2020. He was notifying my neighbors and I about how he was basically having to fight the Amalgamated Transit Union for safe conditions, you know, as the stay in order. I'm sorry, I call them basically as quarantine started to happen in early 2020. Shelter in place, I think that's the term. Erek was telling us about how the ATU leadership was just like wasn't facilitating safe health conditions for the population, including the workers. And yeah. I thought he was going to get fired right then and there, honestly, the fight that he was having. And then the next that I heard of him was during the uprising and how he was getting pushed out of the union for not just saying yes to everything. But I'll let you give a background though about how Erek got fired.
So I was working pretty closely with Erek at the time, 2020, February, March, April, May, June. And we worked very hard to me, him, and many other members. And we had this thing, you know, Justice Coalition was just kind of forming. He had Transit Workers Unite. So we were doing stuff, and we created a whole proposal for organizing and fighting back the membership, helping the membership fight back through the union membership meetings. And that included sanitization of the vehicles and the facilities with union local 308, local 241 jobs, organizing sick outs, demanding that we get treatment on site, so that the doctor could say, okay, you are sick here, you have to go off duty for 2 weeks and get paid for that. Free testing on site, testing like for COVID-19 testing on site. Of course, those things were just being developed at the time. No punishment, complete elimination of so-called discipline. Pay people 2.5 times to come to work. Anyone who comes to work during this time gets 2.5 times pay. What else? Town hall membership, emergency membership meetings for joint 241-308, for the members to debate and decide week to week how we're going to fight with this, to get protections. Paid leave immediately to take care of your family. The CARES, the CCRA, the Coronavirus Act, fed money into things that allow some of these things to be possible. The Local 241 President Keith Hill refused to let Erek read the motion at 241. This was the March Local 241 membership meeting. Like, right, this was the first wave of the pandemic. Refused to let him read it. I read it at Local 308. One of our brothers seconded it. I made the motion, he seconded it. I read it. President Franklin said it's out of order. We can't tell the CTA what to do. And they're going to take care of us. We've already talked with them. They're going to take care of us. Yeah, they took good care of us. Over a dozen of us died. Hundreds of us got sick. We spread it around our communities. And though we had relatives that died and got sick. And they were so cold-blooded that they said, sure, you can take leave, but you're going to have to give up your vacation, any future vacation. The part-timers have no vacation. So how did they handle that? They said, well, you'll just owe us. So that was during the time of ATU President Ken Franklin and Keith Hill. Keith Hill's still in office. And Eric Dixon, I'm sure, wouldn't have went along with it either. But we suffered a lot here. I was one of the first, I was in the first wave, so I was pretty sick. It was horrifying. You know, you just don't know how worse am I going to get. Do I have to be hospitalized? I thank God, no. You know, I got tested. It took forever to get the results, you know. So the part-timers have no vacation. So what they ended up doing is they ended up having to owe vacation if they get turned over full-time. So they'll never have vacation for a couple of years if they turn over full-time. But a lot of the full-timers had to give up their vacation, so they gave it up so that they could be home, take care of their children, take care of them relatives or whatever. So the ATU, we also worked with a group called Transport Workers Union 100 Fight Back. So we made a statement with them as well. And of course, their leadership didn't want to have it. But Transport Workers Union and Amalgamated Transit Union took every single word that we wrote. They lifted it and copied it, made a statement. They left everything in there except 2.5 times hazard pay. I think they said 1.5 times. And what was it, 3? I don't remember. And emergency membership meetings for the members to decide what to do. So the union said, well, because of the pandemic, can't have any more membership meetings. I want to spread the disease. So I made this poem called Shut Up, Be Happy. And I made a little spoken word of that. That's on our YouTube channel, because that's what the leadership told us. They said, shut up, be happy that you have a job. And we're not going to have, and all union membership meetings are canceled. It was based off of Jello Biafra's Shut Up, Be Happy, where he talks about a police state. And you'll hear Black Sabbath guitar riffs in the background. My son remade those things so that we wouldn't violate any copyrights. Then the ATU and took everything out about strikes, sick outs, walkouts. They took that out. And so then they released this cute little website about different rights that you have. And one of them was to refuse to do unsafe work. So Erek Slater took the flyer from the website and he brought it to work. And the managers and Keith Hill didn't like that. So they said, you got to leave because you're organizing a Wildcat. He said, I'm not organizing a Wildcat. I'm saying the ATU says we have a right to refuse unsafe work. I'm just giving this to him. No, so no, you can't do that here. So he went out and he outside North Park Garage, still did it. And then they suspended him. And then they escalated the suspension. They accelerated it to a termination. And he grieved it. And we, you know, me and others were like, man, you got to grieve this, man. Don't take this, you know. And then there was some about the untimeliness of the grievance. So therefore he had no grievance and he was fired. And then Erek and I kind of got a little parting of the ways philosophically on some things, especially regarding holding leadership accountable. But that damn Keith Hill, he was so happy to get rid of. Erek Slater is a huge obstacle to Keith Hill maintaining power, because Erek Slater at the time was actually a threat for his seat. So yeah, so Erek Slater did nothing. He didn't organize a Wildcat strike. He didn't, not at all. He just passed out flyers from the ATU International. Yep.
And then, so how does that relate to the uprising though? Right?
Well, okay, so people were traveling to go downtown to protest the murder of George Floyd. And things were blowing up, and there were elements there that were taking advantage of the situation, but there were real sincere people protesting. But the CTA was transporting police, and they weren't transporting the people. So trains were shut down, buses were shut down, people were stranded. And they were gonna use, I don't know if they did, but they were gonna use buses to transport prisoners. And the ATU made a flyer about that. You don't have to do that kind of work. You can refuse it, transporting police. Because you a target, transporting police and prisoners. What the hell is that? You public transportation, not corrections, Department of Corrections and military. So they didn't like that either. That was the other, I think that really was the straw that broke the camel's back for the CTA and Keith Hill. They're like, that's it, we got him. We can get him out of here because he doesn't want to help quell this uprising. And we all suffered for it. The union leadership refused to even stand up for the workers who were stranded, the CTA workers that were stranded. It was sad. I'll never forget that day. My wife had to pick me up at the train station. She's like, yeah, there's people in the street right now at the currency exchange. And I'm like, just go around, just go around. Windows were being broken. It was just chaos. People were calling me, Erek, what do I do? I can't go to work. And yeah, it was so sad. And the union leadership, Ken Franklin, nothing. Keith Hill, nothing. But Erek Slater spoke. Erek Slater spoke up. And he made sure he was punished for that. Yeah.
Well, if y'all ever want to do fundraisers for Erek Slater or any other co-workers that have been unjustly fired or have, wages taken away from them, I think those are the type of recreational activities we should be doing. We do not do enough fundraising for, fired co-workers and stuff. At least not in my life and in anybody I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's some other things too, tactically, that Erek did that I disagree with, that he should have done, or he shouldn't have done, So I don't want to get into that, but because it doesn't make a difference. What makes a difference is here is a man who's in a union, and he's an elected officer, and the president and the CTA worked very hard to get him fired. Did nothing wrong.
I don't know if this is true, but I remember at the time when he was sent home, I don't know if it was him or someone else said that Chicago Police Department was like following him.
He talked about the helicopters. Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't. To me, I wouldn't be surprised, but it's kind of like, well, that's what happens, you know. Like me, I'm just like, okay, somebody might be watching me and listening to my conversations. Okay.
Yeah.
I expect it, you know.
The laser.
I hope they get good pictures. Like I hope I look good. You know, that's what I want to look good. I smile for the camera when, you know, when the managers come out and they're taking pictures. I'm like, hold my sign.
Well, hopefully a lot of these agencies are experiencing crises and they can't pack them because people are just like really finding out the truth. Because the government goes through a lot of energy to deceive its own people so that they think that the person that they're after is really the enemy.
Yeah.
So hopefully some people are like not getting as brainwashed anymore, because it's like it is still a challenge to control information.
Yeah. Oh, they love to control information. And the Justice Coalition, like, we publish stuff and they're like, oh, no. Oh, well.
So what do you think about the article pertaining to the 2008 Barcelona bus driver strike? You got a chance to read it?
Yes, this I've read this before and I just browsed through it again, and I like it.
So this is
but the critique is interesting.
Yeah, this article is called Dreams, Demands, and the Pragmatic Pitfall: The Barcelona Bus Drivers Strike, written by Peter Gelderloos.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like this kind of criticism. I guess everyone needs to just try and not quit evolving. That's the key. The short road, I think that last sentence, we can see from here that the short road does not get us there.
Yeah, so just to sum up this article, it's not too long. It's Peter Gelderloos talks about the Barcelona bus driver strike. It took place like between the end of 2007 and the beginning of 2008, and you know it was interesting because you get like he talks about some of like the fun elements of the strike, or I guess like exciting elements of the strike, of like people participating in it. It wasn't just bus drivers who were involved in the strike. There's also like squatters that were involved in the strike. And Peter ends by saying that you know, like they won the strike, they got some small concessions, but like essentially like why should we like he says we shouldn't be making these small demands. Basically that you know, what is it? There will always be more immediate iniquities to protest and go on strike against without ever getting closer to worker control. And that's where that sentence begins that you just said. The pragmatic approach is hopelessly unrealistic. So
yeah,
part of the article is just kind of like talk about some of like the exciting things that happened during the strike, but it's also Peter's making this argument like basically dream big and put those dreams out there as like our demands.
Yes. And that's historically what we do as union workers. But the curse of business unionism makes it almost sacrilegious to talk about social issues. You know, CTU got it a little bit about how you know, CORE would build alliances with parents. with communities. But why do we have people living in tents under the expressway? You know, why do we have people dying of diseases that are totally preventable? You know, why do we have people, you know, just, you know, committing crime? You know, what it's a total breakdown. It is greed. It is profits over people. You know, $48 billion in 6 months for the Ukraine war. 48 billion. We don't have to talk about the trillions in Iraq. So the money's there to take care of these problems in our society. And people could still live comfortable, dignified lives.
And one thing,
Go ahead, Jeff.
yeah, and one thing I was going to add to that, you know, because you had mentioned that a couple times, you know, the money that's been shelled out for the war efforts in Ukraine that just incentivizes war profiteering and just makes these guys richer. Alongside of that, just the blatant propaganda that has people so wrapped up. I mean, the conversations that I have with folks about, you know, you had mentioned the CARES Act earlier. Yeah, coming from the middle class, you know, just stuff that blatantly goes against people's worker self-interests. You know, like, well, I didn't need a $1,200 check. And you look at that, it's a drop in the butt. Well, first and foremost, that comes from a place of privilege to not need a $1,200 check. Second of all, there are people that needed a hell of a whole lot more than a $1,200 check. And even if it was more, you look at those small social concessions that the government graciously, or apparently graciously, gives out to folks. It's a drop in the bucket compared to all this foreign military spending. You know, and people, you know, people in the middle class, you know, some of them are the worst ones to talk about this stuff too, because they just rattle off these right-wing things like, you know, people don't need $1,200 checks. You know, I mean, to me, that's just indoctrination.
Yeah, I find myself telling people, you know, who are comfortable like that, you know, apologists and defenders of these poor billionaires. I say, you know, you're not paid enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
They saving lots of money on you, you know that. It's like you've already lost. They're like, yeah, but we have to be happy. We have to be happy with what we have because it's worse in some places around the world, and you know they don't have a union. And I said, no. What you see over there, that's coming here, and you're getting a taste of it. You know, you might as well fight. You might as well. You know, they're afraid to lose. They're afraid to die. They're afraid to live. And they're afraid to struggle. You know, and democracy is messy, especially direct democracy. So we're gonna have to go into it knowing we're gonna make mistakes, you know, with the people ruling their society. This is the way it's always been. You know, this is a new thing that we're involved in now, where we elect our rulers.
Yeah, I mean, Émile Pouget was a French revolutionary unionist. He called representative democracy the latest form of authority, or, you know, you can say oppression. And that's kind of like what you have right? Representative democracy, where you just give someone all the power to make the decisions. He's like, that's just what, it's we don't have kings and queens and the aristocrats. This is just something that's replacing it.
Yeah. The republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Yeah,
blah, 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 blah.
That's like what you got, that's what we have in a lot of the business unions. They're just like, they show the problems of representative democracy.
I remember in my steward class, it was like, they had this PowerPoint presentation. They're like, the only difference between a company and a union is that in a union, you elect your boss. I was laughing. I was like laughing. They're like looking at me like, what is this? And then some of the presenters were mocking me. And they were saying, people don't need to control what the union does. They need to be told. I'm sitting there like, no. I just give me my damn certificate so I can wreak havoc at work, because this is stupid.
There's this graffiti from the May 1968 uprising in France, and it says it's painful to submit to our bosses, and then the other part of it is it's even more stupid to choose them. I understand stupid's not a good word anymore,
right?
But that's like, I think that's how people should be thinking. The essence of that graffiti.
Yeah. It's really frustrating to me, because I get a lot of people. They'll send me text messages. They'll talk to me and say, "Man, you got to run. When you gonna run? When you gonna?" I said, "Well, first of all, when you gonna nominate me? Second of all, why do I have to run for something that is already yours? The members, this is our union. This is ours. We don't have to run anybody. We could have a gerbil for the president, but we can run it." And they're like, "No, well, we need this. I'm like, nah, you kind of need someone who's gonna tell you things you like to hear and say, I'll take care of it for you. Just pay me a lot of money. And you know what's gonna happen. Someone else is gonna come along and they're gonna pay me more money than you give me."
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. Now you can say, "Well, it's not working out. Look at that guy. He let us down." I said, "You ain't getting me into that crap." "Well, you can nominate yourself." "You ain't getting me into that crap. You can't even sacrifice a little bit of time to go." I've been in this before,
Yeah. But that's,
Peter, I'm gonna nominate you, man. I'm like, okay, if you want, but that's not gonna fix anything. It's you. You have to fix it.
Yeah, it's that change that we have to do internally, and also in conjunction with our fellow coworkers, like reshaping or reimagining, re-implementing our ideas of relationships. What are our relationships? And it's also responsibilities too, because like this isn't stated anymore, but the old working class movements, some of them had this idea that, like the slogan, equality in rights and equality in responsibilities. And that responsibilities, what they meant was all managerial responsibilities, that's everybody's responsibility. All like ownership or whatever, that's everyone's responsibilities. Like we're all going to be equals in those senses. There's not this whole like you elect somebody or you allow somebody to be a manager and then you don't have any say in full control of your life, or things that impact you. And so, and
you pay them a lot of money.
Right. And so that's like the education that we need to shift. And like I remember, like for a long time, even a lot of the Marxists were like about that too. And they, I think there was like this one Marxist who clashed against Vladimir Lenin, and he was like, it's education. We're not going to do this whole dictatorship thing where like one person has control over everything. It's education. That's how we're going to change things. and that's a change that still needs to happen in a lot of the United States, and a lot of like unionists and radicals, you know, and even liberals, like they think like just putting someone else different in power and it's going to change things. But no, it's like, no, we have to change ourselves, and we have to revive these slogans like equality and responsibilities, equality and
I
management.
like that. I like that.
And yeah, but back to the bus driver strike though. You know, one of the things that stuck out to me was how squatters got involved in helping out the
Yeah.
bus drivers. What they did was they basically, the bus, any scabbing buses, they helped to disable them.
Yeah.
And Peter wrote that the reason why this happened was because there's like this history of solidarity between some of the bus drivers and some of the squatters. And you know, I was actually talking to some squatters here in Chicago about this, and they're like, yeah, we need to be teaming up with bus drivers. So I think that there's a lot of willingness of like civilian population to help, you know, bus,
Yeah.
you know,
And they can
CTA
do it.
workers.
Yeah,
You know.
they could do. Imagine the buses and the trains and the huge delays because, oh my God, these homeless people, they're pulling the doors and, right? They keep hitting the emergency button. What are you gonna do? Arrest them? Fine them? Yeah. Oh, this is good stuff. This is good stuff.
But yeah, I do like that argument though that Peter says though about like pushing the envelope about like what we're demanding. Because you know, and I'm hoping that like someday, like I really want to help out CTA workers, you know, because you know, at the last hour power protest, there's just one passenger. He was like, hey, sometimes the CTA workers are mean to us. And I try to tell him, I'm like, yo, man, you have no idea what it's like, you know, and I know what he's talking about because I've had some CTA workers who have been mean to me, but I can tell, you know, like, dude, this, maybe because I leave Chicago every once in a while to like take a break from it, but like people are really mean in this city, you know, and they take their anger out on others who are not, like, they don't deserve it. And, you know, there's that saying, right? Hurt hurts hurt. Or basically, like, if you're in pain, you know, you that pain gets inflicted on others.
Yep.
And so I was trying to explain to him, like, and that's part of why I wanted to do this video too, to let other people know, like, dude, it's not the cushy situation that you think for these people. Like, a lot of them are miserable, living in unsafe situations, fed up, tired, you know.
Imagine this. You picked a run as a train or a bus operator, and you go to work to do it. But the runs that were picked before you and after you, maybe 2 or 3, they don't come to work for whatever reason. They're sick, they're injured. Now, what does this do to you, to your schedule? You know, and you have to go home, or you have to go get your lunch. You need your break, and you can't get it. You got to do one more trip, or you got to take it somewhere else and get relieved at somewhere else and wait, or you're starting work and you got to wait for your relief to come. Oh man, you know, you've been written up, you've been threatened, whatever. A passenger did it, a manager did it, the union president did it. Man, I see them a lot. Someone closed the doors on me the other day. We're riding the train, and I'm like, I know, I get it. You want to get moving. You're probably 6 minutes behind schedule. You know, it kind of hurt, but I understand because I've done it. Yep.
Yeah, and yeah, so I'm hoping that at some point, like, we got to do some like campaign in the city of like, ways to uplift CTA workers, show like, yo, we're on your side. And ideally go for like what Peter Gelderloos was saying, like, let's like raise our expectations of what we're demanding, you know, like way more than, you know, because you can't buy liberty, man. Like that's
Nah,
no amount of money that's going to give you like the true liberty that we deserve. You know, it's like we got to go full worker takeover, and hopefully we can have a campaign that helps to raise people's expectations. Like, yeah, you know what? I do want CTA to full worker takeover. Like, enough of this. Because that's the only way where the passengers, in my opinion, are going to be able to have like the best transit service that they deserve, is if there's full worker self-management. You know, all this time that we waste fighting with bosses and management owners and the city, like it's just taken away from like what our communities need. You know, I don't want to be dealing with bosses, managers, owners. I want to deal directly with the workers themselves to talk about like what we need. And the only way that can happen is full worker self-management.
Yeah. And our contracts kind of keep that from happening, you know, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. But we can still promote those ideas, and build for the base that we need for that, because it takes a big shift. And right now, CTA workers are in a business union with a business union mentality, a representative democracy mentality. I vote for you to fight for me type of attitude, and it doesn't work. And that's why even when I'm working with people in their problems, I said, you know anyone else who has this problem at work? I said, why don't you talk to them too, and let's get them involved. You know, and that's the thing. It's like, oh God, oh no, no one likes me. I said, yeah, but what do you want me to do? What can I do? Well, I just want to talk to someone. Okay, I can do that. I can help you write a grievance, but things aren't going to get better. Just you and me doing it, or just you, or just me. And certainly me going to the manager by myself without you there, that's not going to work.
Yeah, and the good thing is that it's less hard to sell than ever, the idea of full worker takeover, because it's happening in this country. Like if you go to and maybe I'll put this link in the description of the video. If you go to the US Federation of Worker Cooperatives website, and you know, you keep an eye on we don't got to go there now, but you keep an eye on the directory of the worker co-ops. If you keep an eye on it, they're growing. Like all these markers that there are on the map there, they weren't there like that 2 years ago, 4 years ago. And like it's getting to the point where I can't, it's before, you know, like it was kind of easier for me to memorize some of these businesses, but now there's just too many. There's too many, and it's growing, and it's not going to stop. And so like more than ever, like, you know, it's like to me it's like demanding pagers today. You know, a lot of the reforms, like, hey, we got smartphones now,
Right.
You know, if we want to be talking about like instant communication,
Right.
like there's all these work co-ops, workers are taking control of production. Like what are we doing? Like it's becoming more and more, even though it's technically still like an exception in the economy. It's looking more and more like it's not too long before it can be the mainstream if we organize for it and change our aspirations.
Well, I never knew about this federation, so I'm glad you shared that with me. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll try to look for ways in which there are intersections, because like there's, for example, like probably the closest thing I'm aware of, and maybe I might be wrong, the closest thing I'm aware of is maybe like Madison Cab. It's a worker co-op. They've been running for like 40 years. You know, it's full worker self-management on that cab system. You know, they might have some interesting things to share that might inspire y'all. And if
Yeah.
y'all ever want, maybe I can like have a private meeting or something and a cultural exchange to help kind of like raise the aspirations or like confidence. Because sometimes that's what a lot of us need is confidence. And you know.
Yeah, and it comes through doing things, you know. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Very cool. Very cool.
So
Yes.
I support, well, we all support general strikes. The core of strikes being able to work, in my understanding, is a good solidarity culture. That's why like a lot of the stuff that I mentioned, like taking care of each other, taking care of each other. To me, that's the basis of it.
Yeah.
Strikes to be more effective is, you know, it's more powerful when you strike out of defense of somebody than striking for like money. You know, it could be totally related to money, but you know, the
Yes.
core being solidarity. So I definitely support general strike. I also support full worker takeover, and if I have to choose between the two, I'd say full worker takeover.
Yeah.
And hopefully the general strike. Yeah, go ahead.
It's organic, right? So it all depends on where you're located geographically, what the cultures are, what the different peoples are, the languages, the industries. So it whatever revolutionary activity occurs, it may not be according to a specific guideline, a specific equation. It's probably going to be more like a combination of things, you know, and hopefully with people who are, you know, real people, not the politicians. Yeah.
So I think that, you know, I know that the y'all are educating fellow coworkers about how y'all can strike.
Oh,
right. That's one of the things going on in your organizing.
yeah. I mean, implicit in every action that we do is the threat of a strike, right? So that's why they don't like it when it's done, you know. So we do teach them about the right to strike in the Illinois Public Labor Relations Act. We do teach them about binding arbitration, which is in our contract, and we teach them about no strike clauses that don't exist in our contract, you know. But you know, of course, we're careful too, because you know, like, oh, you're organizing a strike. So we do some exercises in democracy where we support people who make motions for strikes at membership meetings or for strike authorization votes. I'll be specific.
So I think that, like, as a syndicalist myself, which is another term for revolutionary unionists, or someone who supports that, I think that, like, I need to be doing my part, and Prefigure Autonomy needs to be doing our part to prepare our communities for general strike or strike action by CTA workers, especially like those who really depend on that transportation.
Yeah, and workers want it. They want it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, their thing is, but you got to have everybody on board. Everyone has to be in the same accord. You know, just excuses. Nobody's going to do it anyways because all they care about is overtime. You know, all the stuff that they're fed by the union leadership and management.
Yeah. What do you think like a liberated public transit would look like in Chicago? And we'll consider this the same question. Like, what would how would, in a liberated public transit, I'm pretty sure you probably agree that there would be worker self-management. Workers have full control. In CTA, they are CTA, right? Without the bosses.
Hmm.
How would that make things better? So what would liberated public transit look like, and how worker self-management make it better?
Wow. Well, then that would mean the access to public transportation will be much, much easier. The workers would have sick leave and generous benefits, 4-day work weeks. The passengers would be less stressed out. More people would come and apply and work at the CTA, and we would get people with experience in all kinds of things that we couldn't get before, because we want everyone to make, or they want to hire everyone at $15 an hour. The worker owned, so we can run it. We run it. Without us, they can't do anything. The managers can't do anything. They can't. And to have a worker owned or a worker operated public transportation system would be a wonderful experiment in democracy, in the city of Chicago, where we wouldn't be given contracts to just people because we need favors, because I need a favor personally. I'm the such and such. Yeah, that's deep. That's deep.
So
yeah, I think that's a good vision. It's an important vision to have.
So when they collectivized transportation in Barcelona in the Spanish Revolution of 1936, here's some of the things that they did. One was in the street railways, they discharged the excessively paid directors and company stooges. They saved a lot of money that way. Let's see.
Nice.
They reduced, they were in a war situation, so they couldn't reduce the work week that much. But they reduced the working time to 40 hours per week. They wanted to reduce it to 36. But bear in mind, this is also in a time where like Spain was considered like the poorest country in Europe. So if they had more technology, I bet they would have wanted to decrease it even more.
Wow.
It said, let's see, what else is interesting. They reduced the fares.
Yeah, no fares.
So they didn't get that far. What they did achieve was free transportation for school children, wounded people who were fighting, and those who were injured at work, other people who were injured, and the elderly. There's free transportation for those folks. I do like the idea of just free, no charging anybody.
Yeah, no fares. You have a pass. You should have a pass. I think that gives ownership to the it's like a library card,
Yeah.
It gives people a stake in it. And if you got people that are taking advantage of people, you take their pass away. You confiscate their pass, you you deactivate their pass, whatever, you suspend it if you have to. If you got people that are taking things out on the riders and the workers, and then those people should be given the services that they need to deal with the problems they have, not just abandoned, you know?
Mm-hmm. So are you also thinking about, so you said like that, I think part of the past, you said it was like to give people a sense of like they have a stake in it.
Yeah,
So are you
maybe.
imagining?
I'm just thinking. I
Yeah,
never thought about it before. I'm just thinking out loud.
but this is good because we could. This will be part of the conversations with coworkers. We now talk about taking things over.
Yeah.
Because I know that. So on the idea of like people having a stake in it, like, do you imagine that if there's full worker control, that workers would also be meeting with communities, especially where there's the service, to try to like harmonize things?
Oh
Figure
yeah.
out, like,
Yeah, we have to. Are you, for example, our union membership meetings would be public. They could be at the libraries, different libraries, you know,
mhm,
and we have, that's when we have the writers come and we share with them and they share with us, and we deal with our business and they get to see some of what we deal with, you know. Maybe there's some certain things, you know, regarding people's, you know, jobs and personal lives that we can't, you know, have in an open session. But yeah, we should not be disconnected from the public at all. I had this vision, frankly, if at local 308, where we would have our membership meetings at different libraries every month throughout the city, so that we could have a little public session, and then after that the members come and from the neighborhood, you know, those who live in that neighborhood, they can come if they're off, you know, and if not, it'll still be virtually transmitted, you know, they'll be able to participate virtually.
mhm.
But that would be the idea, is be where the people are, you know, don't make them come to you, you go to them.
Yeah, I know that like Railroad Workers United, I know one topic that I heard them mention this year was just like how, like, when it comes to rail transportation, there's just a lot of services that don't exist for a lot of people who want them. Um, would y'all be interested? Would y'all be interested in trying to fill those gaps, like where they exist?
What do you mean? I'm not sure.
Because, well, do you ever hear about that stuff going on in Chicago where there's like not enough service for like certain communities or?
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I think we can have a, we should ally with the writers on that, because that affects our jobs and our pension.
All right, so we'll talk about this more in the future. This is
Okay.
just a taste of what's to come.
Yeah.
So I guess the last thing for today is like, what are some things that listeners can do to help the unionization or improvement of the unionization in CTA? Like, I said 5, but if you want to keep it to like 2 or 3, that's fine.
Well, tell the workers whenever you meet them, you know, especially if it's a bus operator or train operator, thank them. And also tell them that you support them striking. Tell them you guys are treated like crap. You need to protest. You need to organize. Because a lot of those CTA workers believe that the riders don't care about them. They don't care about their safety. So the more the riders talk to the workers, knowing their pain, that'll inspire them, you know. That's just off the top of my head.
All right, guys.
All right, y'all.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Thank you. Peace. All right.